Welcome to the We've Seen Enough podcast, where we look at the world through the prism of sports. Enjoy the eclectic mix of our personalities as we discuss, debate, and occasionally fight over issues large and small. So as we head to our respective corners, I'm Jim Boyle.
And I'm Tom Trevisani. Let's get it on, Jimbo.
Welcome to Season 1, Episode 12 of We've Seen Enough podcast. This is usually a podcast with my good friend Tommy Trevisani, but Tommy decided he'd move to Maine for some unknown reason. So I brought my son Jack Boyle in, and as you can see, Jack is definitely not Tommy, a lot younger and better looking than Tommy is.
Taller.
I said, a little bit taller. Doesn't shoot the three as good though, but taller. But I'd like to welcome you guys back. It's been about 6 months we've been off. They've been redoing the studio that you see here, and
Yeah, so why is it not Season 2? When does Season 1 end?
Well, it's still Season 1 because I wanted to get a number. That's a very good question, though. You know, this is what happens when you bring the younger generation into the show, Tommy. Bring Jack in, and he decides to argue. But we'll call it Season 1, Episode 12. Maybe we'll change it to Season 2, Episode 1 when Tommy gets back. But because he's subbing in for Tommy, we are also now simulcasting both. We'll be on Spotify plus on the air on WCTV as well. So, like I said, welcome to Jack. Welcome everybody back. You know, it's really important that we get the show back running again. Tommy had developed a really good rapport. Like I said, Tommy moved to Maine, and we have Jack with us now. So, Jack, just so you know, if you've listened to the show, it's really been a hodgepodge of information, and Tommy brings a different viewpoint than I do to it, and I assume the way that we argue at home that you'll bring a different viewpoint as well.
I expect to.
You expect to?
What am I, the second or third guest? Third guest after Riley and Nick?
Nick, yeah. So you're guest number 3. Well, actually, now you're not even guest. You're like co-host today because there's no guest in this. And we did, just for everybody's purposes, we did invite Chris Greco and Tommy's son, Justin, and as well as Kevin O'Donnell, Jack's buddies and guys that we've known for forever here. And only Jack showed up, so we're very proud of Jack to come in.
I would like to say Kevin, if we had done this a couple hours later, probably would have been able to make it, but he's very upset. But if there's no Tommy T,
So Tommy T is the big draw then, isn't he? That's what I try to tell everybody. But yeah, like I said, Jack, so just real quick, Tommy T, how long have you known him? And just what do you think? What's your impression?
I've known Tommy T probably since I was in the 5th grade, which was 2010, so I've known him for a while. Just a very unique guy, interesting takes about sports, and I would love to have him in the studio to just get debating with him and arguing with him about Larry Bird, whatever, his seats that he had in the 1986 World Series, just all the stories that he can tell about sports. He's just a very entertaining guy.
Yes, and he also coached you some basketball?
Yeah, he was an assistant basketball coach for my middle school B team that we were on, and just a very interesting character and a fun guy to be around.
And how about anything you learned basketball-wise for talent? Tommy has the talent for shooting a 3 and not playing D. Is that true?
Yeah, trailer. That's the big one. Pass the ball, J-Trev, trailer, stuff like that. That's what I learned from Tommy T, yeah.
Right. So like I said, it's Jack has the same relationship with Tommy that I do. He loves to talk sports. Again, he's not here, so Jack is a viable substitute for him as well. Jack's got a really wide range. He also brings... in reality, he brings also the new generation of Boston sports fan here. Unlike myself, who went through all the misery and trauma, Jack, what's the most traumatic Boston sports memory you have?
That's honestly a good question. I got to think about that. The most traumatic Boston sports memory I have? There's not that many. The one that sticks out is probably 2011, the Red Sox. That's probably my worst one. I mean, this year, the Celtics, but it really wasn't super traumatic the way it ended. It just kind of sucked. But if we were to talk about the most traumatic loss I had as a Boston sports fan, it would probably be waking up the morning after that game against the Orioles in 2011 and finding out that they had choked and Tampa had came back against the Yankees. I think Longoria hit a grand slam, and the Red Sox didn't make the playoffs. That's it. But then 2 years later, they won the World Series, so who cares?
So then we'll come back to that was the most traumatic. I know you're a big Celtic fan and Red Sox fan, first off and foremost.
Yes, I'm trying to think. Did the Bruins? I guess
Chicago.
That wasn't super traumatic, but the Bruins, they did lose. I remember I was too young, but I do remember, and I was more of a Bruins fan then than I was now. But they lost. They had a 3-0 series lead against Philly. Philly came back, tied it up 3-3, and in Game 7 they had a 3-0 lead and ended up losing that game.
Yeah, Bruins fans, I think, are always traumatized. I mean, because again, what else? Though?
I just thought of this one, 2010, Game 7 of the finals. I don't remember basically anything from those Celtics teams, but I do remember watching that game, and that sucked.
And that sucked because it was the Lakers. Oh, got another one.
Game 7 against LeBron in 2018, because that was the first time we really we made that run with the young team, and I was really starting to become a huge Celtics fan with those young guys, and I had been following for a couple years, and that game sucked because they just couldn't score.
That was a fourth quarter, a little bit of a lapse, wasn't it? They were pretty competitive up until like the third 3.5.
I think the final score was like 86-79. It was competitive the whole game, but they couldn't score. I think LeBron probably scored half of the Cavs points that game. He probably had 40. They scored 86. Lost. We were going to get swept by the Warriors anyways, but it would have been nice to make the finals that year.
So then we move forward. So that the 2013 World Series, you had the opportunity to be at Fenway Park for a lot of those games.
I was at 4 games in that postseason. That was a great experience. I got to see Game 6 of the ALCS, which is where Victorino hit the grand slam that sends the World Series. Got to see Game 6 of the World Series, which is obviously when they won. I saw 2 other games. I did miss the Ortiz home run game, but I had a great experience watching that actually at Tommy Trevisani's old house.
Tommy Trevisani's old house down here in Wilmington, and that was the late night game, and I think a lot of people gave up on the Sox in that moment.
I'd like to point out that Tommy T was asleep when David Ortiz hit that grand slam.
We'll have to ask him. He probably doesn't remember. Tommy T, the big baseball.
Son.
So was Justin. What about who else was there? Chris was there.
I woke Justin up by clapping when Pedroia would have got a single.
Yep.
In front of Ortiz, and I clapped, and then they changed pitchers, and he hit the grand slam, and we went nuts, and we woke up our other friend Chris, who was supposed to be here today. We're not supposed to be here today, but was invited.
Was invited. Yeah. The irony of that game is that game I was out in the Berkshires with my wife and your sister. We were out hiking, and I was watching that game on the one bed and trying to keep as quiet as you can when you have that big moment happen. And you know, it's great that your generation's had the opportunity to experience all the good things and things when the Celtics lose in the finals last year. It's just sort of like you get that far, you expect to win. What's that feeling like?
What, expecting to win? I don't know what the feeling's like because I don't have anything to compare it to.
Right.
So it's just what I know. I did just think, this is going to sound weird because of Boston young guy, my most traumatic Boston sports experiences are actually the Patriots winning the Super Bowls. So the Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl when they were up 28-3, that might be my most traumatic experience as a Boston sports fan. It's more as a Boston sports hater because I just can't stand Tom Brady and the Patriots.
And the Patriots and Tom Brady. But when we talk about coaches, you do have a lot of respect for Coach Belichick, correct?
Yeah, of course. And of course, I have a lot of respect for Tom Brady, too.
Well, you should. He's won 7 Super Bowl titles. I think a lot of that stems from, and again, it's just it's a family kind of thing. I was never a big Patriot fan because I grew up in Pennsylvania. I was a huge Red Sox fan, a huge Celtic fan. I was never a big Patriot fan. So the Patriots in our house were more your Nana was a huge Patriot fan, and she was always that bellwether for us at the house of the Patriots. And then you sort of slid off. I think it was the undefeated season was the kicker, wasn't it?
I don't really remember because I think I remember, if you guys remember the, not to mention his name, but the Ray Rice game against Baltimore. I think it was 2009, the wildcard game, when the first play of the game he ran, I think it was a touchback, so I think it was back when they brought the ball to the 20-yard line, so 80-yard touchdown, first play of the game. They got smoked. I think I was still upset then. I don't remember the second Giants Super Bowl, who I was rooting for, but I do remember that Seahawks Super Bowl. Ugh, that sucked.
Well, that sucks because, again, we're going to talk about later in the show about coaches and their impact on the game. And in reality, we can you mentioned there's an opportunity where did the coach or did the talent lose the game? And as we get to that discussion, that'll be good. The next step with being a Red Sox fan, do you have something else?
Well, I was going to say one more thing about that game. That game, the game was over. The Seahawks had won. The Seahawks had won the game. I remember. So Tommy Trevisani's son, Justin, we were watching the game with him, and if you ask him what his greatest Boston sports moment is, it would be that Malcolm Butler interception.
Yeah, right. Because he's not got many others to root for. Only 6 Super Bowl.
And that was the first. That was the first Super Bowl he saw them win, and all that. And it started the second step of the dynasty. And if they had lost that Super Bowl, I mean, it would have been 3 straight Super Bowl losses in a row, over a decade without a Super Bowl. Questions would have started to be asked. That was the year. Earlier in the year, it was the on to Cincinnati thing. It looked like everything was falling apart, and 10 years later, and well, 10 years later, the Patriots have fallen, but it seems like Brady can still make the playoffs if he wanted to play this year.
Yeah, that was a really, I think one of the things I've learned over the course of those 20 years with the Patriots that is different than the Red Sox over the course of 20 years. The Red Sox won 4, Patriots won 6, is the fact that there was always a constant in Patriots. You always had Belichick, you always had Brady as well, but Belichick's ability to adjust to the times, and now he doesn't have a quarterback, so now we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah, and in that sport, a player can dominate more than like in baseball. So, like, if you have Shohei Ohtani is the best player probably in baseball history, and they might not make the playoffs for the third straight year in a row, or it'll be like the 10th straight year for them. But his third straight year playing at this level that he's at, not making the playoffs. In football, you have a quarterback like Tom Brady, you're going to be in contention every year. Just like how, the Chiefs for the next 10 years, as long as they have Mahomes healthy, they're gonna make the playoffs.
That's very true. And then with Ohtani, again, you also have Mike Trout, a generational player too. So the previous generation's generational player is Trout, and this generation's player is Ohtani. And they're going to be lucky to sniff the playoffs this year. And you're absolutely right about, again, when we go back to what impacts games the most, and how is a team built, and how is a coach built, and how does a coach have to do it. That's a really valid point. So to transition that to where we are today. So we're recording now. This is August 1st, 2023. And we have trade deadline day today. So we have our good friend Chaim Bloom, is general manager of the Red Sox. And both you and I basically have the same kind of understanding, feeling about Bloom. Yours is probably a little different than mine. And just to fill everyone in, I am not a big fan. I don't like not having those name players, the players that I love to root for and have. A mishmash, a hodgepodge of players is great. 2021 was really probably unexpected and great. They put a little good stretch on in July that look like they're going to compete. Is he going to perform? Is he not going to perform? Where do you see this team right now, and how do they proceed after the trade deadline?
You got to ask me that question in 3 hours? Because
I can't. You got to speak up.
So, first off, I always thought the trade deadline used to be on the 31st. Has that always been on the 1st? Or?
It actually used to be almost on the 15th.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's
I don't know. I just remember growing up, I thought it was always on the 31st. But it looks like they're not going to do anything. So if they don't do anything, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're just going to do it. I guess their win total over-under was 78.5 coming into the season. It's going to be better than that. They'll probably go win 84, 85 games if they don't do anything and then gear up for next year. But I feel like with Chaim Bloom, if I remember when he first came in 2020 happened, forget that. That was a terrible year. 2021 happened, and it was a great season. And I remember that offseason, we didn't do anything. We let Schwarber go, which ended up being a good idea. Trying to even think who we signed. We signed a couple one-year guys that were actually decent for us last year, but we didn't do enough to improve the team going off of that 2021 year. We signed Trevor Story, who didn't help at all. But I just remember all the people who were defending Chaim Bloom kept telling me during that offseason that wait till the next offseason, because that's when, the J.D. Martinez money comes off, the Xander money comes off, the David Price, the $16 million we were still paying him comes off. So wait till this the offseason of 2022, which was the one last season leading up to this season. Wait till that offseason, something's going to happen. And nothing happened. And now I'm being told, well, you know what? We actually have to wait till the next offseason, next season. So next season, we should win the division, correct?
I think correct. I think that you hit the nail on the head with Chaim. Chaim has done, I'm going to use the word Bluminati because that's our favorite word in the whole world. But this is his idea of how he's going to build a team. And we're in a market that is a major market, not in Tampa, where in Tampa you can slide, these guys in and out. The Changs and the Arroyos and the Wangs and and even Turner coming in has been big for him. But, at some point in time we have to have, the team needs an identity. And right now, to be honest with you, the team's identity is either him or Alex Cora. And that's how I look at it. And whether he makes a move or not at the deadline, what he did last year was so egregious by not getting on the salary cap, so we lose Xander and JD, and our compensation picks are in the 4th round. So my disagreements with him are, I don't know how well he judges professional, major league level talent. I think he's doing a good job building up the farm system. Now, can he dump those guys off and make the Tyler Glasnow trades or the James Shields type trades that he's made?
Yeah, well, those trades don't come around too often. Just my thing with Chaim Bloom is it just always feels like it's wait next year. It always feels like it's in the future. Push it up. Wait. While we had guys like, you can criticize him. He made some bad moves, but Dombrowski was always about now. brought him in, win. We're going to win now. Won the division in 16, 17, and 18. Won the World Series in 2018. With Bloom, it's like, just wait, just wait, just wait. I just want to see results. That's my thing. So we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do today. They're not going to do anything. There really isn't anything they can really do to make them a great team. I'd have to look at the standings to see who's in front of them, because the three wildcard teams. So it's going to be probably going to be either one of Baltimore, Toronto, or Tampa. Two of those will take up a spot, and then you're basically competing against the Angels,
The Astros and
the
the Rangers.
Astros, and one of the Astros and the Rangers. And can you jump?
No, but it's not even that.
One of them?
I mean, you can. I mean, they're only 2 games behind with a lot to play, but so let's go
Two games
through.
behind who though?
There are 2 games behind Toronto, who's the third wild card. Third wild
Do
card.
you think they can jump Toronto, even if they make a big move? I don't know.
I don't know if they have the pitching depth to do that as you get further and further in the season. You know, we've seen them use the opener, we'll call it the bullpen game, and to some success because he got very lucky. Pivetta did a great job for him. But do they have the pitching depth to be able to, to grind through, the games where, like right now, they're getting great pitching. They've lost 3 games in a row. And they've only scored like 12 runs in the 3 games. So can the pitching keep teams in play? I worry about that. I think the other issue is the Yankees still lurk out there. I know that lineup is horrible. We've talked a lot about it. They still do have the best pitcher in the American League, and they still do have one of the top hitters in the American League. And if they win 5 games in a row, they're going to leapfrog at the Red Sox. So now that's another team they have to go over. So I'm not optimistic. It's been a fun July. I mean, the teams, you got to give them credit. Devers is a great guy to watch, a good guy to sign long term. He's been fun. Turner, even though I hate Turner because he took Xander's number, but I should really calm down about that. He's fun. The Yoshida is fun to watch.
And then
Duran's fun to watch.
Duran and Cassius have been breath of fresh air as young players. So I guess that is part of the Heim Bloom vision. Those aren't Heim Bloom guys. He did hold on to them, not trade him, and it's worked out because Duran, I think everyone in this town wanted to trade him after last year. I couldn't even look at that guy. He's one of my favorite players to watch now. But yeah, I just don't see them. I don't know. I just don't know what they're doing.
That's a good way to look at it.
There's not much to say about the Red Sox. They're not going to win the World Series this year. So, but the other thing is, I think the way they played in July has almost hurt what Heim Bloom wanted to do. Because what they're going to do now is they're not going to have a direction at the trade deadline. They're going to do what they did last year. They're going to not buy, but they're not going to sell. So they might sell like Duvall, but then they might trade like some of the same type like level of prospects they get back for Duvall for maybe a pitcher. And they really are just not going to totally pick a direction to go in. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I don't like the look.
So if there's one thing they would do right now, I think to me the move that Tampa just made to get Cervelli, the guy from Cleveland, for a first baseman who we have, something like that. Is that the type of move, or do you go after? I know this is probably a pie in the sky because Gilbert's on your fantasy team and Kirby should be on mine, but he's on Chris's. But could you go after a younger, controllable pitcher and throw out Verdugo, who's got another year of control, throw out Blaze Jordan. And
I want a name. Give me a name of a pitcher, because you're naming Verdugo.
I would say if you could get like Gilbert.
Okay, if you want Gilbert, you're going to have to give up one of. You're probably honestly, if you call Seattle and you ask for Logan Gilbert, Seattle's going to say you include Tristan Cashes in that trade, or I'm putting the phone down. Gilbert's got, I think, 3 years of controllability left after this, and he's performing at a top 5 to 10 pitcher in the American League in the past 2 months right now. Logan Gilbert, no, that's not happening.
If he says to me, I got to include Cassius, his name's written down right away, because a controllable pitcher, and we talk about.
No, I agree, but no one's going to be willing to do that, and it's more. It'll be more than Cassius.
Oh no, it'll be Cassius and 1 or 2 other prospects that are controllable for them. So again, that's pie in the sky. That's how you're going to get better. Rich Hill, even though he just got traded, is not going to make you better per se. The Adam Cervelli would have been a great idea for them, and if you gave up Verdugo for him straight up with a 1 year versus 3 years, that would have been a good idea. I think Bloom has the tendency to want to be, and I think you made this. There was a tweet or something you read to me where he went from a bottom 5 farm system to a top 5 farm system, and you said, well, he went from a top 5 team to a bottom 5 team. I think he's focusing to build the minor league structure and system up But now is the time, not this year, I think next year is really the time to start to build for the future. So now if you have to trade one of those players to make sure you're ready to go next year, that's what this trade deadline should have been for. And I don't see him pulling the trigger on Nick York or even Cassius or Durant. He didn't even pull the trigger on Durant last year. So
Durant had no value last year in the
true.
offseason. Durant has a ton of value now because he's got he's going to have 4 years of controllability after this. And Cassius obviously is going to have a ton of value too, 5 years of controllability. We'll see. He did what he's done this year. I didn't think he was going to do. He's bought himself another year.
Oh, definitely. I agree with that.
And
Yeah.
I thought he'd be gone. I thought this was it. They were going to totally fall on their face. And they haven't, so that's a credit to them. I don't know how they have. I do know how they haven't. They've gotten some just outrageously good pitching performances from some people. The back end of their bullpen's good. I saw a stat when they had the lead after the 6th inning. They're like 42-2. Do you remember last year? It was like they blew a save every game. It felt like.
Yeah.
So they have made improvements, but we'll see. He bought himself another year, so we'll see what he does this offseason. It's really not worth talking about until we get
like
the-
6
we get the
o'clock
roster.
tonight?
Yeah. Now that I think about that, what are we going to get at the trade deadline? What are we going to give up? What's going to make this team where it needs to be? It has to get done in the offseason through getting a few free agents and maybe making a trade or two and getting the team ready. The team isn't built good enough. The roster isn't constructed good enough to win the World Series. You look at the 2018 roster, they had 4 or 5 good pitchers. They had a full lineup, great defense. They could run the bases, everything. This team doesn't have. They can hit. They have a good back end of the bullpen, but they don't have enough pitching to win.
Correct. I do. And I
And they
think
play horrible
defense.
defense.
And they run the bases horrible.
run the bases
except
horrible.
for Durant. The other thing I think Bloom's got to really look at it. Say, he's got to trust Alex. He's got to trust Cora. Cora is what's going to either get you over So what do you trade to get to that 1-game playoff, and then the 1-game playoff is a wild card? So that's the thing. It's for the Red Sox fan, for the guy who's 23 years old, who's won 4 world championships in his 23 years. Is it good enough just to make the playoffs, or do we want to be competing for the championship, for the AL championship, to play in the World Series? What's good enough? What's the delimitator between, we just made the playoffs?
Look,
is that a successful year or not?
We can just look at the 2016 and 2017 Red Sox. If you look 16, 17, and 18, that's the first time the Red Sox in the history of the Boston Red Sox had won the division 3 years in a row. In 2018, they were on they won 108 games.
Yeah.
Even going into that postseason in this town, they were still getting trashed on because they fell on their face in the postseason 2 years before. Even though the year before they lost to that Astros team that, I don't care about the cheating, was a juggernaut of a
Right.
team and won the World Series. And the year before that, they lost to an Indians team that went to extra innings of Game 7 of the World Series. So, no, you got to win. Playoffs don't matter, but I think people are getting sick of the last place finishes and the not making the playoffs. The Yankees make the playoffs. The Yankees, I think they made the playoffs every year since when? 92?
No.
No. That's,
They missed
that's
a
the
couple
wrong-
times.
No, that's the wrong.
They missed-
No.
But it's close enough.
No. I said that wrong. They've had an above 500 record
Right.
since 1992. That doesn't cut it. Forget they won 6 championships in that span. But U.S. Yankee fans, is the playoffs enough? No. And where the Red Sox are at a point where the playoffs are not enough. You got to compete for championships.
Correct, and they like to go to a town like Cincinnati or Seattle, who hasn't been to the World Series. Teams like that, or towns like that, making the play. The Angels, if the Angels could just make the playoffs, if Ohtani can get on the national stage, and the Angels can just make the playoffs, is that good enough? And can that be
For
good
them,
enough to bring
yes.
him back? So that's yes, but for us, I mean, whether we're spoiled,
I think it's the Patriots really did this to us in this
Yeah.
town. The success of the Patriots, how it was, wake me up in the conference championship.
Correct.
Wake me up in the AFC championship. I don't need to wake me up in the AFC championship. And that was a fair point because every year it'd be like the season starts in the AFC championship. They didn't care. So that
That's true.
all the fans, that translates to every team in the town. The Celtics, look at what the Celtics have done the past 6-7
and
years.
it's just not good enough.
and look at what gets
Right.
said about them.
It's just, and I
Yeah.
think you're right. It's just not good enough. The team that skates.
Same with the Bruins. The Bruins, have kind of
really
done-
skate though, because the Bruins have this little tiny fandom, whereas the Celtics and the Red Sox, the Patriots, it's, I think the Bruins can get away with it a little bit more.
The
as long as they're competitive.
Celtics got criticized more than the Bruins did.
Oh,
this year
definitely,
for
100%.
their-
And
for
they
their
always
list.
will, though. They always will, because the Celtics, again, you're expecting, these guys. They talk about a great game, blah blah blah, but what you're expecting out of them is to win it all, and it's not. I think one of the things people realize it's not easy to win all. Let's go back to 2018. Think about those first two games against the Yankees. First game, Chris Sale JD hits a 3-run homer in the bottom of the first inning. They got a big lead going in. Sale isn't really effective and good, and it gets tight at the end. Second game, Sanchez hits a bomb, like it's still going, and now you're tied 1-1 and going back to Yankee Stadium, and almost the mentality of the Red Sox fan was, there's no chance they can win this game, this series.
I remember the Yankees fans, oh, they're coming to the Bronx Zoo. There's no chance. It's going to be crazy, and it's going to be the loudest the new Yankee Stadium's ever been, blah, 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 blah. And then Severino forgot when the game started, and it was 9-0 by the third inning. They scored those runs quick.
It was a cruise control after that. You know, it's just like Game 7 in 2004, where Game 6 was tense, and Game 7 they just destroyed them. That's very true.
And then Game 4, that was Kimbrel made that a bit more interesting than it should have been.
Yeah, he likes doing that though, and again, it's just that's what we expect these guys to do. So on that end, I think I've seen a ton of moments with the Red Sox. We'll get ready to transition to coaches in a second. So the Red Sox have won 4 World Championships with 3 different GMs and 3 different managers, right?
Yep.
So the consistency with the Patriots isn't really there with the Red Sox. The Red Sox have to make a decision. Where do they want to go? Who do they want to pay? How do they want to build their team? You know, and I look at this team, and we have Devers, who's a cornerstone. He has to be. And then Cassius and Duran. You love when the young players play well. And Marcelo Mayer is going to come in, and Cediel Rafian and Brian Bayo. And as these guys get better and better, then the team can form an identity. And then do they do what the Braves did and try to sign these guys to longer-term extensions and keep the same unit around for 4 or 5 years?
You got to hypnonize your players to get them on the contract.
I know that. I know that. But they got to get that to go, because you think about it. In 2018, we had everything from the offense perspective. That was a really great unit of 4 or 5 guys. And then within 5 years, it's gone. Every single player on that team is gone, except for Rafa.
The difference between us and the Braves is after Mookie's second, I think it was his second full season in the MLB, when he had 2016, when he finished second in the MVP voting, we went to him for a contract. I think we offered him probably $200 million. I don't know what they offered him in 2016. I know the one in 2018, the offer that they gave him was 10 years, $300 million, and he countered with 10 years, $420, and that's when it ended with them. But we offered Mookie, I know, a contract in 2016, and the Braves did that to Acuna. They're the same level of player at that point, and Acuna took it, and they got lucky. So
that's true. We would have to get lucky with that. But that's okay. It's water under the bridge. We'll have to go like that. It's good to talk baseball. Tommy's not a big baseball talker, so it's good. I'll have to bring you in and talk baseball more and have him fight with that.
I don't think Tommy D could name 4 Red Sox players right now.
He probably couldn't. I don't know.
4 might be. I don't know about 3.
I'm wondering if your mom can name 4 Red Sox
she
players.
Can, I know.
You never know if she can, because that's the thing I don't like. I mean, I have to be honest with you. You know, I've been a Red Sox fan for 55 years, 54 years, and you know, every year I think back, who are the guys I identified with and I like to see and I like to play, and you go from Yaz to Rice to Greenwell to Clemens to Martinez to Nomar to Petey, and then to David Ortiz, and then we get to the Mookie and the Xander, and all of a sudden now there's nothing there. So that's troubling to me.
At least we kept Devers.
Well, at least we kept Devers. Right?
There's one guy we did keep who we're going to get to see play about a 15, 20-year career in Boston. So
Correct.
That's at least nice.
Which really is a shame that we don't get to see him, but more of the guys. So one of the things Tommy and I do is we really look at we do that Mount Rushmore, and look at comparisons. So what I really want to do, we talked about this a little bit earlier at home, is the 5 sports. Because you're a big international soccer guy, so I love this discussion that we can have. So we got baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and soccer, professional soccer. So we talked about it. How do you rank those as is the importance of the coach?
Well, I'll always say soccer, just because I think soccer, if you pay attention to the sport, and if you're listening to this episode, you probably don't care about soccer, but if you pay attention to the sport, the managers in soccer, the top managers, are as famous as the players. They're as known, they're as talked about, they're as criticized and not criticized and all that. They get all the credit, they get all the blame, as much as the players do. So I think in soccer, more than any sport, the manager matters the most. He teaches the team how to play. He installs, his style of play, gets them to do what he wants. I just think soccer is the one sport where the manager gives you the most impact. Second, I would say football. And after that, it's hard to say. I don't really know because I know everyone hated the Celtics coach this year, but look where they went, right? So
That's true. That's true. Joe did get them that far.
So that kind of makes if you hate Joe Mazzulla, you can't make an argument that coaching the NBA is the most important.
You're right. I think again we have to define it as I'm going with professional football. We're talking about professional here, not college level.
We can't really include soccer because we can't talk about it at that.
Well, we can. You could
No, but
use
you
your
don't.
expertise.
We
I like
can't have
your.
an argument though about it, like because forget soccer. So
No, I don't want to forget soccer because I think you have a good point, we have to listen to your point. Not that I have to agree with it because I don't know that the high level of soccer that manager has. To me, is the manager as important as the head coach of a pro football team? I'm saying that football is a little bit above the soccer. I'll give you soccer second because I really think that in baseball, it's all how he handles players in the clubhouse. You know, how many times a baseball manager have to make you screw up once every 10 decisions, and you can't help it because it's all about your talent. Hockey and basketball, I think,
but that's you say it's all about your talent. A lot of the managers are involved in the transfer policy of their football clubs, so they pick their talent specifically. They can pick anything. Every other sport, all you do is draft. You can't just pick talent.
well, you can draft and you can trade and you can sign free agents. So,
But
so you have
can't
to have
pick
an
talent
impact
like
on
you
that.
can in soccer. They
Okay.
pick the managers and the football directors, which are the general managers. They pick their talent. They specifically can pick which players they want to go attack and target and get on their teams. Where in football, baseball, and American sports, you can't just go, "Hey, I want."
So there's a difference.
You know what? I like Logan Gilbert. Let me go pay him and get him. And they're making all those decisions. The manager, if you make the wrong decisions and spend the wrong money on the wrong players, see ya.
So in other words, if you're the manager of Manchester United and you go out and sign your good buddy Ronaldo, that was a mistake, and so that
Not
cost-
the manager's fault.
not the manager's fault.
No, he didn't have a say in
So
that.
you just tell me the manager's a say, and now he doesn't have a say.
It depends. I said not all managers.
I knew I'd trap you with that. I got lucky and got to see him play too, so I can't complain. But again, managers. So like basketball, again, you talk about instant.
That's actually a good point because I guess I was kind of talking in a circle there because I don't know what the argument is for soccer. I get that. I don't know how to make my argument, I guess I'm saying, as to why it's so important.
Well, we'll bring you back.
But it is.
We'll keep coming back to it because I think it's a really.
I didn't plan for this.
I think it's a really good discussion point because everyone sees it differently. Because I think at the professional level, it's so much different, though, as you go down a level, what impact does a coach have? In college, it's different, and in even we go down to high school. To me, in college and high school, it's all about talent. I mean, you could be an average coach with great talent, and you can't really screw it up too bad. Whereas in the professional, if you have great talent and you screw it up, it's there to be seen. You can, like I said, Nick Saban always said, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes. So again, I don't know enough about Premier League soccer or soccer on an international level to be able to speak to the manager. Like I said, if I rank them, I'm going to go football. I go football, soccer, basketball, hockey, baseball in that order because I think baseball managers are really at the professional level are getting a lot of data information from the front office now, and it's really about managing your people, just like in the real world we live in, and how do you manage your talent. So we're pretty much close. How do you go? So you go soccer, football, what?
I can't speak. Again, this is like you speaking on football. I can't speak on.
Well, just
this
make
is like
one
you
up then.
speak on soccer. I can't speak on hockey.
I
So
can't.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know what a hockey coach does. I know they dump and chase, and they have like soccer. They have a specific play style they're going to implement that they the way they want their team to play the game. I've heard dump and chase. That's about it.
So what you're saying is, in reality, 4 of the 5 sports, the
But
coach is
basketball
trying
is
to.
two though. Basketball, you're
right.
basically
So 4 of the 5, they trying to implement their vision of the game. Whereas baseball is such an individual sport that your vision of the game might be, I want you to take the first pitch. Okay, I think we can go with that. Hockey, you're right. We're just two stupid guys who don't know much about hockey. But we'll have to get a hockey expert in here someday to educate us on that.
All I got's dump and chase. Do you know another like style, like a play style, a hockey?
Well,
style
another
like
style was to muck up the center so that nobody could get any offense. The New Jersey Devils, I know that Lou Lamoriello would muck up the middle, and they won like 2 or 3.
Does
Stanley
that still
Cup
work
championships.
though in 2023?
No, because I think they changed some of the rules, the holding and stuff. You can't really slow them down. So what happens is the leagues, in order, I think, like back to baseball, is the pitch clock and the timing. That's really made the game more. The Sox are more exciting, but the game's more exciting, and then more is happening.
A lot more
with it.
watchable.
Right, and I think with hockey and even basketball at the time, Jack's looking around the studio like he's not on the air. I think with basketball and hockey and football, they've changed the rules to get more offense, and I haven't done that right now with international soccer. So that's a good discussion to have. Maybe we'll get Tommy back. I bet you he says basketball's number one because those players have to listen to coach because they don't know any better.
Nah, he would say football.
Yeah, I think you're right. Football, you would go with that. We usually generally do a Mount Rushmore in our segments with Tommy. So today, let's go with two. I'm going to do 2 different Mount Rushmores. Football, Mount Rushmore.
All right, we're not going to do Mount Rushmore because that's too little. If we're doing what I think you're doing, and you want to do college football stadiums.
First of all, college football says where have you been to see college?
So
football?
we're gonna instead of Mount Rushmore, which is 4, we're gonna do our 7 wonders of the world.
That's
So
good.
our
Hey,
7
so we're gonna have to change the name of the show. So we could bring Tommy in to do that the show we've seen enough, and now we can do it all boils down to this as our show.
Yeah, so I'm more of a proponent. We'll do the 7 wonders of college football stadiums.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. How many college
That way
games?
we can pick because 4. There's
Okay,
a lot of college.
okay,
We
so-
can pick,
okay,
there's
let's-
only 2 of us. We need more than 8 stadiums.
Okay, so 7 wonders of college football, And if I get it back on, I'd love to do 7 wonders.
So we do this as like a draft format.
I don't know, we'll just go.
No,
Let's
we'll do
just-
it. You have to because you got to pick.
Well, you'll pick. Who do you pick? Okay, who do you pick number 1?
So who has the number 1 pick, me or you? Because I think both of our number 1 picks are the same, right?
Age before beauty. No, you go first.
Do we have the same number 1 pick?
I don't know.
All right, my number 1 pick's the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, because I would almost go. I would now go.
I'm very nostalgic with the Rose. I just think it's a great place. One of my favorite college football games I ever watched. I haven't.
Let me
really
guess.
watched
Can
that
I
many.
guess?
Yeah.
USC Penn State.
No, not
Sam
even-
Darnold.
Oh, that's actually a good one.
Oh, remember that one?
That's not my favorite game I watched, but I'll never forget going into school after that game and just
Okay,
telling it
okay.
like Sam Darnold's gonna be the best quarterback of all time. Because
What's your
that
favorite
was
game?
one of my favorite games I ever saw was at the Rose Bowl, and it was the 2013 national championship, Florida State versus Auburn.
Okay.
It was the year that Florida State just had a juggernaut of the team. If you look up their roster, they had a bunch of all-pro NFL talent on that team, as well as the Heisman Trophy winner and Jameis Winston. And that was also the year where Auburn had made the national championship game because of the kick 6
Yes.
against Alabama, which was one of the best games in college football history. And it was just a real competitive, close game. In Florida State, Winston led them on a drive at the end of the game to win the game. It was just a very entertaining game. I just think, just the scene when the sun sets there,
Yep.
it's just on the mountain. It's just a very beautiful college football stadium.
Now
So,
we've actually
my number 1 pick is the Rose Bowl.
we've actually been there when there's no football game.
Outside.
So we could probably go see UCLA because UCLA plays their home games. Now they're in the Big Ten, they might be good.
Let's go to the Rose Bowl.
Let's go to the Rose. Put that on the bucket
All right,
list.
so
you
the number
get-
1 pick is.
I give you the
you
Rose.
writing this down?
Okay, now he's gonna make me write it down. I got the
What,
pen.
you and Tommy T just rattle things up. You
oh,
don't
we just
draft.
rattle it off. I don't
You gotta
draft it.
well,
Jack takes the.
But I pick. Now you can't pick the Rose Bowl.
I can't pick the Rose Bowl.
And then
okay.
look, all of
Okay,
our
so-
listeners, all of our listeners can pick whose is better.
all 50.
All of our listeners. Now I'm not pandering because if I were to pander,
We would say what?
the Rose Bowl is not a pandering pick to the Say we had 100,000 people listen. I don't think everyone agrees with me on the Rose Bowl. I think like a pandering pick would be like, ooh, Notre Dame Stadium.
Well, yeah.
you know that. That's
I'm
a
not taking Notre
pandering.
Dame second, by the way.
Okay, I
I'm
know.
gonna-
I know what he's taking second.
He knows. I'm going to take Michigan Stadium because it's just that again, it's just like the Rose Bowl. It's built deep into the ground. I've never been there. I've seen the Rose Bowl. I've never actually been to Michigan Stadium. We do have to get out there, and I think one of the reasons for Michigan is just because the way it's structured. It totally destroys the horseshoe at Ohio State because they rebuilt the horseshoe to make it a circular, put more people in. Well, I'll go with Michigan number 2. Again, it'd be nice to see a tough little game in the stadium, but I'll go Michigan number 2. So you're going to get the next pick. Who's your second
I'm
pick?
trying a bit of a blank, thinking here. Just
Or do we
I
wanna
have
go
a ton of stadiums,
or
but
we go-
I'm trying
or-
to think of if there's one I want to
That you want to go to. This is something you want to see a game in.
Well,
You've already
the
seen
place
the
I'm
game?
going to pick is I'm going to probably pick Beaver Stadium at Penn State. I've seen a Temple Penn State game there that was first or one of them was like the third week of this. I think they actually both were around the third week of the season.
No, the one was in
One of them
November.
was-
It was about. No, remember, it was about 10
Oh
degrees.
yeah,
below
you're right.
zero.
It was freezing cold.
Those
so it
dudes
was
were my
later, and
homies
they-
there.
And then I saw Temple, but those aren't full on sellouts. And that stadium, the way that it's built, it seats 110,000 people. I would like to talk about the Penn State. I would like to see a night whiteout game at Beaver Stadium. in,
Okay. Yeah, that would be
in,
fun to see
what
against
is it,
Ohio
College
State
Park?
or Michigan.
What's it
No,
called?
it's University Park.
University.
State College, Pennsylvania.
State
University Park.
College. That's what it was. That's what I was looking for.
So yeah, we've
So
seen a
I'll
couple
take
games up
Beaver.
there. So is that you're gonna take Beaver Stadium? I'm gonna go to the SEC here, and I know you disagree with me, but I'm gonna go with LSU because I love to see a night game at LSU at night. If you can make an addendum for the Beaver Stadium, I'm gonna go to the SEC LSU at night just to see the craziness of how that world works because it beats Bryant-Denny Stadium. So I'm going to go with LSU as my second. So I got Michigan LSU. You got Rose Bowl Beaver Stadium.
I wish I had a list in front of me because I don't want to forget anything.
I don't have a list in front of me either.
No, I know, but I'm just trying to think of my.
So
Am I
go
forgetting
east to
one
west.
so much?
Do you have anybody in the southeast? I know you had 2 or 3 you really wanted in the Southlands. There's another one on the west coast. There's a couple here in the northeast as well. You know, so and that you have maybe been to or not.
You know what? I'm gonna continue the trend of just picking massive stadiums, and I'm gonna go to is it Kyle Field,
Kyle Field.
Texas A&M.
Yeah.
They got the what is I don't know if they're called. They're not called cadets. There are they?
They are cadets.
They are cadets. So they got the military. They come in. It's just a cool thing.
The 6th man, right? I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I made that mistake
yeah.
last. That 12th man. Now that's good. So you got Kyle Fields. You want to see the cadets? I'm going to go with the Coliseum out in L.A. Just because of the immenseness of it and the UCLA coming in and the whatever they do, they're marching and they got the guy riding in as the Trojan. So I'm going to go with the Coliseum in L.A. That'll be another one.
I'm starting to think 7 actually might have been too much.
Yeah, see, you
Yeah,
get
it might-
cocky like this, see? There's a lot more. We talked about a lot more. So go. I'm going to let you go. Pick one.
Okay, so I have 2 right now. No, I have 3. I have Penn State. I have Rose Bowl, and I have
Kyle Field.
Kyle
And I got Michigan, LSU, and Coliseum.
I'm
LA.
not pandering. You know what?
You are pandering.
You know what? I am going to
Pander.
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 You know why?
'Cause
Because
you
I'm taking Notre Dame
I
Stadium.
knew you'd go there 'cause
Touchdown
that's where I was-
Jesus. I don't
that's-
really like it that much,
that's-
but you know what?
That's
Touchdown
right.
Jesus. That's all I'll say.
I was going to go there too, but you know what? I'll give you that one. And we've seen.
I also had a very funny experience there with a guy who was on a lot of drugs next to me and passed out.
Yes, that was the again. Jay Trev went to that game, right? We had
Yep.
Jay Trev, Kevin, and Chris as well. But lucky for me, Jack and I have both seen 2 Temple games there. Unlucky for us, they were both games were the first games of each coaching career. For Matt Rule, it was Matt Rule's first game,
Yep.
and then it was Jeff Collins' first game. And Collins, they both picked their own quarterbacks, and that's the way life goes. But yeah, Notre Dame. I think the Notre Dame experience to me. Not just like you talk about the blackout, the Notre Dame experience. Everything we do on that Saturday before the game, it's probably like that at Michigan, probably like that at Kyle Field. And in reality, it is somewhat like that at Penn State. So I will give you that. I'm going to take Tennessee next. Rocky Top.
Oh.
I'm going to take.
I would have
Tennessee.
taken that over Kyle Field. See, that's why if I
Why
had
would
that,
you have taken? You loved Kyle Field
No,
earlier.
no, because Rocky Top. No, the
Rocky
game
Top.
that they played. The game that they played this year against Alabama that they won, that was one of the greatest atmospheres I've ever seen in a college
Yeah,
football game.
that's right.
So if I had a computer in front of me with the list of stadiums,
Oh
I
my
would not have
God,
missed
you would have
that.
picked that. You would have gone that over Notre Dame Stadium.
No, I would have gone over. I would have went with that third. I probably would have went with that over Penn State even.
Yeah.
I don't
We
know.
talked about that last night.
That's a very good value pick right there.
What's the name of that stadium? I forget. Top time. What is that? Crap. I'll try to think of it. This is what happens when you have a brain injury.
Is
Oh,
Neyland LSU?
Neyland. No, Neyland's them.
Oh, it is.
Neyland's
Okay.
them. Yeah. And Ellis, and then you're next. So you're gonna
So we
get.
each have 4.
This is number 5. We can probably do 2 more. We can get to 6.
No, we'll do 7. I'm gonna
7.
take I'm gonna take Doak Campbell Stadium just because,
FSU,
like I say,
baby.
I'm a Florida State fan, and this would be a night game where I don't want to be insensitive here, but I think it's Chief Osceola.
It's not insensitive because the Seminoles.
No, I'm trying to get his name right. Chief
Osceola.
and
something like that.
in Renegade, the horse.
Yeah, and
come
they
out
slam down
slam
the-
the spike, and everyone's
Slam
doing
it
the
down.
everyone's doing the.
Well,
chop.
that's a little insensitive. the
No, it's
chop.
not.
Oh,
It-
it's.
Not at Florida State. It's not. But It's insensitive when you randomly go to a World Series game to do it just
That's
to be
true.
insensitive
That's true.
about it.
So you took FSU. So right now you got the Rose Bowl, Beaver Stadium, Kyle Field, Notre Dame Stadium, FSU Stadium. I got Michigan.
Doak Campbell
Doak Campbell. I call that
at
FSU.
Bobby Bowden Field.
Oh, geez.
and they have to be doing the chop, and it has
And
to
they
be
will do it.
and it has to be Osceola with Renegade doing the spike.
And they will be
Because
doing
that is
it.
again, I'm just picking things that I think are
I'm
very,
gonna go with.
very cool to witness.
I'm gonna go.
atmospherically.
I'm gonna go way out west again. I am gonna go with the University of Washington Stadium, which I've been to without a game, where it's right on the lake and the boats come up and the people watch. It's like a horseshoe, and you can see the city of Seattle out to one side. So I'm gonna go with Washington Stadium out there for my 5th pick. You got another one, Jack. Who
I'm
you
gonna,
gonna
I'm
pick?
gonna stick with hand signals in South, and I'm gonna go with the Swamp, Florida. When they come out and everyone's doing the chop, like not the chop, the actually it is the chop. So it's a different.
It's a different chop.
It's a different
alligator.
version of the chop that they do.
Yeah,
so
it's the
yeah,
alligator
I'm
chop.
gonna. I like. We've been there. We went there. We just toured Florida with my older sister. Toured Florida for
Yeah,
some reason. And
Because
we went in
she applied to Florida.
Oh,
Jack. She wanted to be a Gator.
okay, she was never gonna go to Florida, but we went in the stadium, and it was pretty cool looking stadium. And again, that's one of those stadiums that when Florida's good with Tebow and Meyer and Aaron Hernandez, that stadium's going crazy.
Okay, I'm going with Death Valley, which is Clemson.
That's
I'd
a good
love
one.
to see them touch the rock. I'd love to see them. So we're at 6. We're going to go honorable mention for the 7, but I'm going to take Clemson. I think that from the Danny Ford days of the late 70s to Dabo Sweeney days today, it's just again, I think you go to these places and that's the whole town's there, and the atmosphere that you get from it is really kind of enjoyable. We'll say so. So let's just recap it. I'm going to give you. We'll get one more. It can be whatever. It doesn't have to be a Cathedral Stadium. So you have Rose Bowl, Beaver, Kyle Field, Notre Dame Stadium, Doak Campbell, and the Swamp in Florida. I got Michigan Stadium. I got LSU at night. I got the Coliseum in L.A. I got Tennessee. I got University of Washington, and I got Death Valley in
I'm
give you
gonna
one
put-
more wild card.
So we are. I'm going up to Maine with my friends, and we are picking up Justin Trevisani at his house tonight. So if I do get there and see Tommy Trevisani, I'm going to show him our 2 lists and have him pick which one's better.
He's not a big college football guy, though.
Okay, so
Tommy.
we have one more pick.
It can be anything. I'll let you because
here's
I
a
have
real-
a couple ideas.
There's one. I know you don't like it, and you know what? I'm not going to pick it.
Just for the setting, you can say it. I'm not gonna. I'll survive. Just
I was thinking about picking the horseshoe, but nah. I'm going to go with.
this is a wild card. 7. Go because it can be anything. You could pick the link. The greatest college
I
football
gotta-
game you ever saw was
No,
at the
'cause
link.
Look, the only reason I'm going to pick this is because I know you're about to pick it.
You're not gonna
and-
pick it.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Army.
I was.
I love how he thinks I don't know him. I knew that's the fun.
You
You're
don't
not
even
gonna
know.
pick
yeah,
it.
you
You're not
don't
gonna
e-
pick it.
you
Yeah,
don't-
okay.
You don't,
I love how he thought I wouldn't
what's
pick
the
that.
name of the stadium?
I'm not picking it
What's-
because
I let you pick it.
Wait,
I'm
no,
not gonna pick it.
I
I'm
don't-
picking Franklin Field anyway.
No, I don't want to pick it, but
Okay.
I just want it pointed out that was
Okay,
hilarious.
Okay, so
I'm
listen.
gonna take.
You don't even know the name of Army
I'm gonna
Stadium.
take.
Okay, go.
I'm gonna take the other horseshoe kind of Texas.
Ugh, Texas.
No, you know what? I'm going Army.
Go
Give me
Army?
Army.
Give you Army.
Yeah, that's gonna give. I got Army and Kyle Field. You're not gonna beat the military.
Well,
picks
I could
have.
take. Well, you could go to Annapolis, but I don't like Annapolis as a stadium, so I'll pass on that. Boy, oh boy, that Army. He's right. Army would have been my next
You're
pick.
not
And
gonna
as we're
pick
running close on time here, I gotta hustle up. So I got Michigan, I got LSU, I got Columbia. What part of the country don't I have? I don't really have the East Coast, right? I'm gonna
What do you-
go.
Oh, the East Coast. Yeah.
I'm gonna go like Philadelphia. I've seen games. So here's the deal. I've seen games at the Vet, which no longer exist. I've seen games at Lincoln Financial Field, which exists. I've seen games at Franklin Field. I've seen games at the Carrier Dome. I've seen games at BC. I've seen game at Rutgers, and all those. If I had to pick of those 5, I would go with the more historical Franklin Field on the University of Penn campus. I'm gonna go with that one as my 7th pick. And I'm sure we missed a ton of schools. Like Baylor built a new stadium, stuff like that. But probably missed
I
a
just
ton.
have on top of my head that I forgot.
Yeah, we always forget.
This is what about this isn't a football stadium, but they played the Virginia Tech game a couple years ago, maybe like 6-7 years ago at one of the NASCAR. Where would that?
Oh
have been?
yeah, I've been with
And
that.
they had like 150,000 people there. Where was that? What NASCAR?
In Virginia, I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not a big NASCAR.
Like we
fan.
know our auto racing.
We'll call up Dave Heilman.
Yeah, there you go. He'll answer that. So again, we got our fields. It was good to go through. Tommy, if you're listening, Rose Bowl, Beaver Stadium, Kyle Field, Notre Dame Stadium, Doak Campbell at FSU, the Swamp at Florida, and Army Stadium, Mitchie Stadium. It's Mitchie, by the way. And that's Jack. I got Michigan, LSU at night, the Coliseum in LA, Tennessee, Washington, University of Washington out in Seattle, Death Valley in Clemson, and Franklin Field in Philadelphia. So those are my picks. And as we running up on time, Jack, it's been great having you on. We got to get you and all the boys on here more regularly. I can also promote WCTV, the studio here. We now do simulcasting, so this eventually will be on the air. So you have to smile for everybody.
And
Any last words?
One more thing. So you asked me my biggest heartbreak as a Red Sox fan.
Yes.
I'm going to say excluding these three, because I know there are three that probably stand above everything else, excluding Bucky Dent, 86, and Aaron Boone. What's your biggest Red Sox heartbreak?
Mine is...
It's funny. We have to exclude three, like,
Mine
insanely
is,
bad ones.
to be honest with you, it's 1975.
Sander leaving?
No, 1975 against the Reds. I remember watching...
Game 7?
Game 7. I remember Game 6. My father, your pop-up, was in Providence, Rhode Island on business. And John, my brother, older brother John, and my mom and I watched the game in the old family room down the old house. And Carbo hits a home run. John goes to bed. Fisk gets the home run. It says.
What was your reaction to the Fisk home run?
Just it's euphoria, right? And the next night, you think, oh my God, we're actually going to win. They take a 3-0 lead on a Fred Lynn home run in the first, but my father forever will hate Bill Lee for this. He throws the Ephus pitch, and Tony Perez just absolutely. You think about annihilating a ball. He absolutely annihilates the ball of the wall.
It's probably not the only reason he hates Bill Lee.
And then you've got they lose in the 9th, the little blue pit, and that was hard because that was the one that was close to being tough. And I think 03. Because I was older,
Well, that was
with
part
Boone.
That was part of the exclusion.
I
So
can
now,
exclude
I said
Boone?
the three. Rank those three: 78, 86, 03. If I had to guess, it would be 86
I would
is
say
way above
I would
everything.
say
03 and then 78.
No, I would go. Oh, that's hard. That is hard.
78 might be different because of your age.
In
and it's more
78, I was
emotional at that
16 years
age.
old, and Yaz popped out, and I broke a chair, and you know what? That's hard.
Broke a chair.
Yeah.
You get in trouble.
Well, we had what we called the coma chair that ended up here, and the you can see on the TV here the footrest. When he has it to home run, I jumped out of the chair so bad the little leg I kicked it and it broke the lever. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if I can rank them. I think that
Is it 03? Actually,
No,
Because they were. But then again, I could say they were so close in '86, but in 03 they were so close too, and it was even that was 17 years after.
you know
86.
what's
It was
funny. If I
torture,
can
torture,
explain it, because I
torture.
have in '78 they had the big lead and they blew it, and they came back and won like 8 of their last games, 8 straight games to win to get to the playoff, and then Goose Gossage was dominant. Reggie Jackson's a home run. Lou Piniella gets lucky in right field. The world was totally against us. That hurt because of my age. 86 hurt because we were this close to winning the whole thing. So probably 86 had it would number
Obviously,
one.
yeah.
And then 03 was it was unbelievably traumatic because of everything that happened. So it's hard.
Right out of the commercial too.
It's hard. Yeah, right out of the commercial. Boom. I remember walking to the front of the house and just looking out the front window, and we hadn't put the addition on yet, and I was like stunned for like an hour and a half. And I know we talked to your mom. I go up to bed and I have to tell her that we lost. And that was probably the most traumatic month of baseball for me. And then 04 makes up for a lot.
Yeah,
of
that's the thing about 03 is it adds to the story of 04.
Correct. Exactly.
It makes the 04 story even better.
Correct.
It makes the 3-0 comeback. It's like, well, it's not only just the 3-0 comeback. It's the Pedro got left in the game and Aaron Boone home run adds on to that.
Everything.
So it makes it better.
All right.
In the long run.
Jack, we'll have to do this again because it's been fun as we run up on 55 minutes, which is like a new record for Tommy and I. So, again, appreciate having Jack in. Phil for Tommy. If there are guys out there, Jack's friends, you want to start some kind of podcasting here at the studio, it's always open, WCTV. Contact either or Sam or Lisa here at the studio, and they'll be more than willing to help you set up. Jack, we're going to have to keep going with this because there's a lot of good conversations. So for
check out the Specialists in Failure podcast on Apple Music and Spotify.
no, we're going to have to get Specials and Failure podcast to do
I'm
it
just
out
kidding.
of
Don't
to do it
listen
out
to
of
that.
this studio because you'll be in good shape. So
You want like
we've seen enough. Is that this one is we could get that on. So for Tommy Trevisani, who's not here, I should show the empty chair. Jack Boyle, who's been a great guest filling in. I'm your host, Jim Boyle. Thanks for joining us on We've Seen Enough, and we'll see you on down the road.
Thanks for listening to this episode of We've Seen Enough, recorded at WCTV Studios in beautiful downtown Wilmington, Massachusetts. If you'd like to get in touch, offer topics to discuss, or stump us with sports trivia, we can be reached via email at jboyle22@comcast.net. That's jboyle22@comcast.net. Along with Tom Trevisani, I'm Jim Boyle. Make sure to tune into the next edition of We've Seen Enough.